It's episode 76 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is Kate Knight.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Yes.
Should we describe for the listeners where we are recording this?
We are currently sat on stage in Birmingham's best improv theatre, sort of, called the Blue Orange Theatre, which is an independent theatre in Birmingham.
Yes.
Which is where we are.
Hooray.
England.
Hooray for Birmingham. Hooray for Birmingham and the Midlands.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. I've come up for the Bristol.
Wow. I don't know where Londoners get their reputation from. I really don't. Yeah, Birmingham, Bristol, well, same thing. Not London.
Bristol.
The Not London Improv Festival.
I'm also in there. I'm in that Not London. Yes, well, Bristol also has a very fine...
Bristol actually does have a proper improv theatre, whereas this, I should say, is not an exclusive improv theatre. It's just where a lot of improv happens.
Wow, because I've only been here since yesterday, so to me, this seems like it. And all I've seen here is improv, so I presumed it was improv all the time.
That's true. There has been a bit of a takeover. John Trevor has commandeered this space for a whole 7 days. So we have got wall-to-wall improv going on in this room.
Brilliant.
But, sometimes theatre happens too.
Sometimes at the same time.
Yes. Ooh, yes. Of course. Wasn't making any aspersions about improv there. Slaps wrist.
So, what's it like being an improviser in the Midlands?
Wow, it's changing all the time for the better. Definitely. So I've been on the scene now for 5 years in Birmingham. I started improv when I moved to Birmingham from London, where I was living. So I should point out, I am a Midlander by birth. Yeah. I was born in Dudley. All right, yeah. Which isn't famous for many things, but gave the world Lenny Henry and an earthquake in 1990 something. The earthquake.
No, I also remember Lenny Henry. I should point that out, but I don't feel that's obvious. Yeah. But, I remember that earthquake because I had friends at university, and they were affected by that, not in a terrible way or anything.
I was going to say, it wasn't particularly earth-shattering. It was it made my pictures wobble. It made my posters fall down, because I was about 14 at the time, and I had posters on the wall there. Yeah. Anyway, yes, I'm from Dudley, but I lived, for most of my 20s, I lived in the south of England. I lived in Oxford and then London. And then I moved back to Birmingham. I say back to the Midlands to Birmingham. Yeah. And that was 2012. And so I kind of stumbled upon improv very much by accident. Complete fluke, to be honest with you. I went on a date. Oh, right. And it was to see these Edinburgh previews. So we do have a very strong stand-up scene in Birmingham, and so there's quite a lot of stand-up comedians, practicing their material to take up to Edinburgh. So I went on a date for that, and just tacked on to the bill right at the end of this experimental Edinburgh night was this improv group called Box of Frogs. And I remember seeing them and thinking, that was really different to the stand-up, and that I really remember it because I didn't massively enjoy it. I just remember thinking, that looks like they're really enjoying that.
I've been in those shows.
Yeah. And I thought, I didn't dislike it. I just thought, it's all right. But they just look like they're having a lot of fun. So I thought, I'll check that out. I'd like to have that much fun. So when I kind of got into it through that in 2012, the scene was small. It was basically one guy, John Trevor, who I'm sure you're going to hear a lot from.
Yes, he's coming up.
And he kind of started this scene with a book, a copy of Keith Johnston's Improv and an empty room, the scene has just exploded from there. Yeah. I'd say just exploded. It's taken years of hard work and careful, marketing, but compared to what it was, now we've got so many groups who've kind of come up through Box of Frogs and then not outgrown it, but just sort of decided to go in a particular direction and then kind of branched off. So personally for me, I've been a member of Box of Frogs for 5 years. Through Box of Frogs, I founded the Knee Jerks. Through the Knee Jerks, I founded 2Prov experimental group, me and Susie Evans. We've got Jumprov came through Box of Frogs as well. Fat Penguins, sort of, or Ben Hall came through Box of Frogs before, going off in his direction. So like the Box of Frogs is kind of like the nursery, really, and lots of great things kind of grow up through that. But it has just exploded, really, the improv scene, and I think that's typical. I think now in 2017, you go to any big city in the UK, and there will be an improv scene.
I mean, Bristol, for example.
Yeah, Bristol. Yeah, exactly. No, we're in Bristol, right?
Well, I thought we were. I thought I was going to the West Country.
Yeah. No, Birmingham's possibly one of the few cities with a more mocked accent, I would say. I'm not saying mockable, but mocked.
Actually, that's interesting because you are right, and I have relations from Wolverhampton. So I have a great affinity for this part of the world.
Yeah.
When I can remember what it's called. And it is interesting that, yes, the Brummie... I love the Brummie accent. I was just listening to it last night, and I just thought, do you know what? I really feel an affinity for this part of the world. But you are right. People do tend to mock it.
They do, yes.
Or they'll adopt it as a shorthand when they're improvising.
Absolutely. And I think that's true of Yorkshire as well. I've really noticed it, really noticed it in improv, that I don't know if it's because most of the improv I see is by Southerners. I don't know.
Right,
that would be weird because I live in Birmingham. But I've noticed that the Yorkshire accent just becomes shorthand for like, ooh, I'm a bit, ooh.
Yeah.
And it's actually to such an extent that in the knee jokes we have an in joke about like every northern character that we do, we make sure they have a PhD. But it's totally, addressing this weird stereotype. People, it's really interesting to see what kind of sort of panic defences people resort to on stage. Improv really brings those things out, and it does seem like northern accents become this place of safety for people who think, oh, I want to do a stupid character, and Brummie as well, to a lesser extent, I think. Generally in society, I think Brummies get quite a raw deal in terms of the accent. But for some reason, on improv stages, what I've seen is it's northern Yorkshire that get the brunt of it.
I wonder why that is. Is it the Full Yorkshireman sketch?
Right, yeah.
Are people drawing on that for the Yorkshireman thing? I don't know.
I think improv suffers from being a little bit homogenous sometimes. I think that, that's why in Birmingham we're so proud of Jumprov, because they are, directly addressing this problem that we have in improv of, not enough of diversity. And I think some of the stereotypes that you see coming up on stage do come out of that kind of lack of awareness or lack of experience, people, and it's not really the improviser's fault. It's just what comes out of it's your conditioning comes out a lot of the time, doesn't it? I've said things on stage that I've been horrified by when I've come off stage, like, where the hell did that come from? But it does. It kind of dredges up a lot of your conditioning. I notice it from a female point of view as well. I notice a lot of women getting treated as secretaries and mothers and all this kind of crap that floats around in society. Improv is definitely not a bubble that is protected from that. Far from it. Improv is something that just kind of brings it out, I think, and then hopefully with more experience you get, the more you can control that, and the more that you can, like the knee jerks, just give every Yorkshire person a PhD.
I mean, it's not. I don't even think it's so much of control, but it's just like, can we make better choices? Can we make more interesting choices? Can we make more exciting choices? Can we make funnier choices?
Exactly.
And the not relying on the lazy stereotypes is more interesting, and I think is more rewarding to perform and the audience to
it
see.
is. And a lot of, it's really useful, I think, to come to improv with your own kind of area of expertise almost, or your own kind of identity, like me personally as a feminist, as a vegan, as someone who's asexual, like all of these things, as someone who's queer, like all of this kind of informs my improv. Although I am middle class and white and able-bodied and cisgender, and but
it can't be everything.
Exactly. I can't win diversity bingo. As much as I try.
Because it's all about the winning. If
Yeah,
there's one thing
exactly.
I've learned about improv, it is about the winning.
Oh, yes.
But it's interesting when you can bring your interests or your passions into it.
So I think the most rewarding and interesting improv for me is when people are being authentic.
Yeah.
So what's great to see, going back to the Midlands improv question, what's great to see happening in the Midlands now is loads of different styles.
Yes.
There's lots and lots of different formats, different, sort of focuses, different goals that every improv group has, I think. And for me, what really interests me is authentic improv. So I'm less and less and less interested in, being clever and funny on stage.
Yeah.
And I mean, just increasingly more interested in being honest and exploring emotions kind of authentically.
I'm very much in favour of being honest and demonstrating emotions, because I can be both of those things, whereas being clever and funny, don't know, tried. But
well, I started out, I think when I actually went along to my first improv class after seeing this short form show, I was delighted, because I was like, oh good, here's a place I can be clever with my words and I'll get attention. Like for about the first year, I was just like, oh, what's that? You want to play questions? Oh, well, let me show you how well I can make a question with my words. And it took a long time for me to actually start getting the bigger picture. Like, actually, being honest, like improv coming from your heart is much better than improv coming from your head.
Yes, and can be much funnier as well, because there's nothing less funny than someone trying to be funny.
Yeah,
and failing,
exactly. And I've seen a lot of scenes, and I've been in a lot of scenes, and I've caused this many times, where a whole scene that could be really powerful and really interesting has just been chucked away because of a pun, or a really low-hanging dick joke, or you know what I mean? Like
they're the worst kind of dick jokes.
I know, the low-hanging ones. Oh dear. Yes, I can't remember what we're talking about. I'm thinking about low-hanging dicks now.
I know. I just proved the point there.
Yes.
We were having a perfectly good conversation, and then I decided to just emphasise that, and then I broke the reality
and then
of
the
the
authenticity just dissipated like a fart in a concert hall.
So you say you founded the Knee Jerks?
Yes, well, I co-founded the Knee Jerks.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Knee Jerks came out of Box of Frogs in I'm trying to think what year. It would probably be about 2015, 2016, around that time. So a group of us, 8 of us at the start, we'd been coming to Box of Frogs for a long time. We were really committed. We were really enjoying it. But we'd just gotten to that stage now where we needed more than short form.
Right,
we needed more performance opportunities, and we wanted to explore what would happen when you run a scene for longer than 4 minutes, and without those kind of wacky constraints.
Yes.
Which I've fallen in love with short form again since, but you go through those phases, don't you?
And the nice thing is you don't have to choose.
No, exactly. It's improv is a smorgasbord, and you can just fill your boots.
It is all the same thing in the end.
Yeah.
You take a step back and you're outside the scene, and it's like, it's all the same thing. It doesn't matter. It's only when you're in. It's like when you're in any sort of subculture. It's like, we do this bit, and then they do it that bit. But so we hate them because they do it in a slightly different way, even though ultimately they're still doing the same thing.
Yes, exactly. It's like high school tribes, isn't it?
Exactly.
I'm not a grunger, I'm a grebo. Well, we both use eyeliner badly, so let's all just get along. So we just realised that we wanted to explore things in a bit more detail at length, and we just got together and we said, hey, we're all in the same boat here. We just want more improv. In fact, we have a Facebook group, like a private Facebook group, which is still called More Long Form Please, because we can't change it. But that's it's a nice reminder every time we log in and we talk about Knee Jerks admin, it just comes up More Long Form Please. It's a handy reminder. But yeah, and that just sort of came out of dedication and love, really. We all got on, we were all friends, and we were all willing to put in the time, because we rehearse once a week. We rehearse at my house. It's the house I live in with Danielle, who's another knee jerker. She owns the house, and she has us over every week, and we rehearse. In the dark, in the rain, when we're ill. Like a lot of us are or were teachers, and as crazy as it gets in term, just every Wednesday we're there we're practicing. You know, we really put the hours in, and we've had coaching, and you know, we've taken it really seriously.
Yeah.
And it's really lucky that while we were doing that in Birmingham, as well as the growing improv scene, you also have people like Lee Dempsey setting up experimental comedy nights where you can come and test out, you know, any kind of nascent ideas that you've got, all with an improv focus.
Yeah.
And then through that we got a monthly gig at the Vic. So that's
cool.
a pub in town, very trendy pub. I recommend it,
all right.
especially on the third Wednesday of every month. So we have a regular gig there, and upstairs above a pub in town. And that's been really useful as well, and really helpful for us to have that regular performing experience. It's basically 8 friends who wanted more improv, and it's going strong. We don't have Will and Jay anymore, unfortunately. Will left the Midlands to go and pursue a career as is it naturist or naturalist? It's the one that does things on a reserve with birds. He has got clothes on, I think, most of the time.
The naturists, the naturalists. Well, I think they are genuinely different things. Yeah. So
but yes.
Don't hate enough, but still.
So he isn't with us anymore, unfortunately. And Jay Handley now is a pretty well-known stand-up comedian, and he lives in London now, I think, most of the time. London, you know, right. That place. London, Leicester, somewhere beginning with L. You know. So there's 6 of us now. Cool. In the Knee Jerks, and it's going from strength to strength, you know.
I mean, I think what you're saying about committing to it is key, and it's one of those things I always say, in that it's to do with the level of having the same level of commitment with the rest of the team, more than the same level of ability or anything else. Yeah. It's just everybody committing to it.
Yeah, commitment, you know, on stage is one of the most important things, and certainly off stage as well. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that is quite special about the Knee Jerks is that our style is... it's unlike any other Birmingham improv group I've seen, or any London one that I've seen as well. Because we don't necessarily aim for comedy.
Right.
Not in the same way that, you know, we don't come on with premises, and we don't sort of aim for, like, we're not trying. Basically.
You're not trying.
If it's funny, good.
Yes.
Yeah, but, you know, if it's sad, good.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I know that maybe I sound a bit parochial being like, we don't just do laughs, we do other feelings too in Birmingham. I know, I'm aware that you know, most improv groups would say that, but I do feel that Knee Jerks has there are certain elements, like Danielle, for example, with her theatre director background, she really pushes the kind of emotional vulnerability, and then we have Susie, who's quite a clown, and I don't know, we just got a really lovely combination. And oh god, you never know what's going to happen. Whoa, not like all those other improv groups.
Well, I would be disappointed if you came on stage and I didn't know what was going to happen. That would feel not in the spirit of the endeavour.
But I like the combination of personalities in the Knee Jerks.
No, it's really lovely when you get a group and they all seem part of the same gang, but then they're all individuals within that gang.
Yeah, totally.
And that's when I saw you play last night. That's kind of what I felt.
Yeah,
about the group. It's like, you know, they're obviously, you know, they're a team. They get on, but they're all different and they all do different things.
I would like to think we're all strong flavours that somehow don't clash.
Yes, that come together in a delicious casserole of improv.
Exactly. We are a hearty improv casserole.
That's going on the Edinburgh poster. A hearty improv casserole, 3 stars.
Harsh but fair.
So when you rehearse every Wednesday, what format do the rehearsals take? Is there a particular structure?
There's a lot of sitting around drinking tea and pontificating.
Because actually, I think that's a really valid way of rehearsing.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's a very valid way of warming up.
Yeah.
Just sit and have a cup of tea and a chat.
Absolutely.
I think that's really helpful.
It's really important, isn't it, to like the people that you're on stage with, right?
Yes.
Improvise with your friends, not your enemies. It's all part of it, really. It's all part of just kind of, how was your day? You know, I was pissed off because of this, or like I'm really happy that this finally happened. And we bring that on to the show, you know, and that's how we try and get the audience on board. Really, is to bring them into. We used to do check-in on stage, so we would just check in with each other about each other's days, which we would definitely not have practiced at all. Like, we would have no idea how each other's days had gone, and then we just reveal it to each other on stage.
Oh, right, that's
and then we would, you know, offer that to the audience, and then if the audience wanted to add their check-ins as well, we'd take their check-ins, and then all of that would form the show. But
that's kind
that
of
risks being a bit self-indulgent, though.
Yeah.
If the audience, you know, some audiences are very happy to give you their check-ins, but some audiences not so much. And so if all you're left with is your own day, which you then turn into an improv scene, it can be a little bit self-indulgent. But I really like what we did last night, actually, that format where it's what are you struggling with and what are you proud of in your life at the moment. So
my only problem was that all I seem to do at the moment is improv. So my greatest struggle and my greatest success were both improv related.
I'm proud I'm doing so much improv. My problem is it's ruined the rest of my life.
I've got nothing to do when people ask me for what they want to do when they're doing an improv show, because all
that is totally part of the improv wave, though, isn't it? Like, I think there are points on my improv journey where I just it's all I do. It's like it takes over my life. I'm either teaching it, performing it, or talking about it, and you know, the rest of my personality just sort of fades away, and it's terrible for your improv.
Is it?
You know,
I'm going to challenge you on that.
I think it is,
because people say that, and I'm going to challenge that. Just because secretly I hope it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you not have, you know, a world of experience before you started improvising?
Yeah, but I've got short memory. So if all I've been doing for the last 5 years is improv and eating and quitting my job, and no, I just think it speaking personally, it kind of makes me feel like a bit of an improv bore if all I've been doing is improv. You know, it's, I don't know. I'm really interested in writing as well.
Yeah.
So improv has really helped me in the writing process in terms of, I think I'll just write a load of crap and then I'll yes and that and see what happens here, and then I might just, you know, and it's helped me to run with an idea. But so it's been really a catalyst in sort of getting me going. But then actually, I don't know, for my writing, I feel like I need to I feel like I'm drawing on really distant experiences because most of my recent experiences are all improv, which isn't that useful for the kind of stuff that I'm writing anyway. So
that's really interesting.
I mean, other than that, I'll just have to make something up, but like, let's not go mad, you know.
It's really interesting. I used to do more writing, and I haven't done for a long time, and I haven't done since I've started doing improv. So I'm really interested in that process. Do you ever kind of, you know, like devise theatre sort of workshop things when you're trying to write stuff?
What happens when I'm trying to write stuff is just me battling myself in front of a blank screen, really. Yeah, that's my process. Staring at a blank screen, drinking peppermint tea, going, what? For about 3 hours, writing 500 words, deleting them, writing a really good sentence, and then calling that a successful day. But no, when I'm writing, it's such a personal thing that I don't want to kind of bring it out necessarily. I bring it out when I feel like it's in a decent enough state to be seen. Which is weird because when I'm improvising, obviously improv is such a collaborative art form, isn't it? And you know, there's no hiding any of your first drafts there.
No.
But I do. I find the two very, very kind of complementary, but quite opposite in a lot of respects. Although I have to say, and this might not be the right thing to say on an improv podcast, the rewards of writing I find even better than the best improv was. It's just that writing is a lot more, you know, concentrated, long-term effort. Do you know what I mean? Not that improv isn't an effort, obviously it is. But I think I really like writing because when it's done and it's on the stage, I can be in the audience and I can watch people's reaction.
Yes.
So when I'm improvising, I know there are some people in the knee jerks who are brilliant at this. They are so in tune with the audience and they can hear like every last cadence that comes from the audience, and they can, calibrate what they're doing to follow the audience. And that is a skill that I just am in awe of, because what I do when I'm on stage is I shut the audience out. I just block them out. When I was a teacher, I used to do it too.
Oh, right.
Kids? What kids? I'm teaching myself how to spell. But no, I guess it's just like a coping mechanism or something. I don't know. I just tune them out and I just get on with what I'm doing. So I guess for me, that might explain why I find writing even more rewarding than improv, is because I get to witness the audience reaction when I'm in the audience watching work that I've written being performed. And as an improviser, it's one thing that if I could have like a magic improv wand and give me one super skill that I don't have any kind of modicum of already, then it would be audience awareness.
That's really interesting. I wonder how one gets better at that.
Yeah, I don't know. Stand-ups are really good at it, obviously, because that is what they do. They come in and they control an audience and they respond. There was a great talk by Deborah Francis White, her TED talk, and a quote from that really stuck with me. And she was saying how she can tell how experienced a stand-up is, because an inexperienced stand-up will come off saying, I hope I was all right, like they didn't seem to like my material or whatever. But a more experienced stand-up will be like, I think they were all right, they were a bit slow to begin with, but they warmed up and then they did, and the experienced stand-up is way more aware of the audience and makes it about the audience rather than about themselves. And I was really interested in that idea because I wondered if that was true for improv also. And if it is true for improv, then I'm buggered.
It's interesting because I'm in a two-prov group called Dr. Two-Prov, and we do adventures in the world of Doctor Who. And it's basically scenes from a hat.
Right, yeah.
Dressed up. But that's essentially what it is. And when I'm doing that format, I'm very aware of the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm almost doing that clown thing of where you're, clocking the audience, where you're going, are you having a good time? Are you enjoying this? I'm not quite that blatant, but in my head I'm sort of doing that. And if they are enjoying it, we'll do a bit more until they stop enjoying it. Whereas when I'm doing long form, I'm less aware of the audience.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm more involved in the situation. I'm more emotionally involved and using more of my imagination to make that scene real for me. Right,
yeah. Yeah. Because that's another thing, because I mean, the audience, most of what they give you, I guess, the most obvious thing they give you is laughter, isn't it? There are more subtle things that they're giving out. And one of my favourite things is when an audience goes like, those noises are amazing. I love those. But the most common feedback an audience will give you is laughter, isn't it? So if you're not, there's a great quote from Susan Messing, because I was in Chicago recently doing a course at the Annoyance, and we had Susan Messing for a day, which is brilliant. And she said, just because an audience isn't laughing doesn't mean they're not fascinated, like a car crash or Christian TV. was her comparison. But I thought it's a really good point, absolutely. Like, I am that audience member. I am a comedian's worst nightmare, because I will come into a show and I will sit there stony-faced, probably with my arms crossed, just watching for the whole thing, and then I'll come out and go, well done, that was brilliant. Useless to a performer. But it's true, we do kind of, I feel like we do rely almost on the laughs to guide us sometimes. Or we can. And it's quite a crude way of measuring the room. But because you have to focus so much on what's going on stage, and you have a duty, I think, to your scene partners and to yourself, most of all, to be having a good time on stage. It is so hard to focus on that and the audience.
Yes.
There's so many plates we have to spin in improv, aren't there? That's the thing.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm so involved in embodying that character and playing that for real, it would be hard for me to step out of that and really be aware of the audience.
Yeah. So that's why I prefer writing, basically.
Right, fair enough.
Because, I don't have to do anything. My hard work is done. And I'm just coming in, enjoying the rewards, basically. Whereas with improv, it's like I'm working and enjoying the rewards at the same time. Which is having your cake and eating it at the same time.
Yes. Is that not baking the cake and eating it at the same time?
Writing is baking the cake and then enjoying the cake.
Whereas improv
is like licking the bowl
as you're going
delicious. Along.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they're both pleasurable activities.
But maybe ultimately the finished cake is more satisfying.
Yes, because in improv, if you're lucky, you'll see a video of the cake.
Yes.
But a video of a cake isn't as good as eating a cake.
Do you ever
I'm just thinking about cake now.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about cake as well. I'm wishing I'd done a podcast about cake where I just have people that like cake on. We just eat cake.
Vegan cake for me though. That is, I tell you, it's hard being vegan to get cake. Being vegan is amazing. I recommend it to everybody. But I just wish there was more vegan cake in the world.
Well,
in 2017,
yes,
mark my words, 10 years' time, there'll be vegan cake everywhere.
More vegan cake. That sounds delicious.
It is actually. When you find it, it is good.
Do you ever video Knee Jerk?
Yes, we have started filming ourselves now. So I compose music as well, and I realised quite early on that recording myself composing was so useful, incredibly useful. I just thought, why wasn't I doing this before? But it took me ages to realise that would also be true for my other art forms, improv. So what I've realised since we started recording is, I've got all these terrible habits that I had no idea I did.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm not saying you in
I
particular.
saw them all
Yes,
last
and I
night.
wish that's why I'm going on the podcast.
Yes.
So I wish to pull you up on
made
this.
a list.
It's a list. I'm checking it twice.
I didn't realise that. That when I stand, I bend backwards quite a lot.
Really?
It's really weird. And I slap my thigh like some sort of widow twanky, and all these kind of things that are clearly nervous habits, on stage. But just seeing them there in the cold, harsh, undeniable reality of film, it's like, wow, okay, I really need to just plant my feet and just sort of stop shuffling and not bending backwards like some sort of inverse banana, but definitely filming yourself is one of the things that has been most helpful definitely for me in terms of progressing my improv.
I've also found it helpful because I do some teaching and being aware of those habits, and also in quite a nice way I thought, I'm all right at this.
Yeah.
Actually, this is okay.
Yeah.
Because in my head, there's all these other things, and but if you just watch a video, I'm pretty much like a serene swan.
Yeah.
They don't see the paddling underneath.
It's true. It's very true. And also, you find that the scene that you thought was happening looks so different from an audience point of view.
Yes.
There were moments where I thought, I left a really long pregnant pause there. And it was actually about half a second. Or it was like, I said something in a really witty voice there. And it's like, it just mumbled into my sleeve. But, and positive things as well. You just don't know what the scene was like until you watch it back.
And that time dilation thing I'm really aware of, 'cause I've had exactly that. I thought, I was stood there for half an hour and no one said anything. It was 30 seconds.
And also silence on stage is great.
Yeah, exactly.
There should be more of it anyway. We are scared of it, I think, generally.
Yes.
But yes, it really is useful. I mean, I know a lot of people read books. Really big fan of reading loads of improv handbooks. I find them next to useless because I just don't retain anything from reading. Whereas from watching stuff I've done on stage, that is seared onto my retina now. I'm like, oh my god, I look like that. But no, it genuinely is one of the biggest things that's helped. That and workshops, I think, are.
We'll talk workshops in a second. I was just going to say, with the videoing thing, Another thing that's really helpful is that you get to see what's happening behind you.
Yeah.
And there have been some times when I thought, I was really funny in that scene. Everything I said got a huge laugh, and it wasn't me at all. It was someone behind me upstaging me again.
Yep. Yes, been there, done that. Been upstaged.
Workshops, they're very important.
They are.
And fun.
And fun, yes. I can't remember who it was. I feel like it might be one of the May Days that said that you do all the hard work in the rehearsals and the workshops, and then the stage time is like the play. Yeah. It's I had I'm going to talk about 2 workshops, if that's all right, that have really stood out to me, that I've had kind of epiphanies in. One of them was with Heather and Joe from the May Days.
Oh, yes.
I've done their musical workshop 3 times now,
yes.
As well as at Otto Leader.
Yes.
And we were singing, like, she puts you in like a group. I think there were like 8 of us or something, and we're in like a nice little tableau, and we all have to sing just, 2 lines, like 2 couplets about what we want.
Yes.
And you can be a character, you're wanting something, or you can, just speak from your heart and be honest and sing about something that you want, And I remember it so clearly. There were, we were sitting there and everyone was singing all these things, and I don't remember anything anyone else sang. And it got to my turn to sing, and I had it in my head. I was like, I think we'd been given like a suggestion of football or something like that, to like, just in case anyone needed a prompt. And I remember I had in my head these 2 different possibilities for what I was going to say, and I thought I could be clever about this. I could be a footballer who wants his own goal. Like, that was a shit joke. It's just rubbish. But like, in my head, I was like, that's a pun. I could say that and be very clever. And then on the other hand, I was just like, oh, well, at the time, I didn't really have anywhere that I was living that I felt like I belonged, and I was, I don't know, maybe a bit broody or something. And this other line that came into my head was a family of my own and a place to call home. Yeah. And right up until the last minute, I was going to go with this shitty footballer non-joke, and for some reason at the end, I think it's a testimony to what amazing workshops Heather leads, and she creates such an atmosphere where people do just, they do feel like they can just say things, and so I went with that one, the emotional, honest one. And I sang it, and I said, I sang a family of my own, a place to call home, and I was supposed to sing 2 more couplets, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. And actually, as I was saying it, I started to cry. Wow. And other people were crying. And it was just this really amazing moment. And it was such a lesson for me, because what that directly showed to me was like crappy, cerebral, throwaway joke. Yes. Or emotional truth. Yes. And just the reaction from the emotional truth just made me realise that is so much more effective. Yeah. And that lesson has just shaped my improv ever since, to be honest. Yeah. It was just such a crystal clear lesson. I was like, I'm so glad I didn't sing the shitty line about a footballer wanting an own goal. So that was one workshop. And then another one was this time last year's Birmingham Improv Festival. We did a workshop with Victoria Bang. Oh, right, yes. And her workshop was Daredevil. I should just say hello to Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. We haven't met, but she always likes every tweet I do about the podcast. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope she's listening to this. Because Victoria, your workshop was very, very inspirational for me. And I hope you can come on the podcast at some point. There we go. Yay. You're invited. Yeah, so her workshop was about Daredevil, and it was about following your impulses and just having fun and just being brave on stage. Yeah. And there was this one exercise that we did with her, and it was a solo exercise. Everyone was doing it at the same time. Right. And we were just all around this very room on this very stage. Which means a lot to me. Less to the listeners. Less so to you guys. Right? We were in this very bath that you're in. I don't have baths, I have showers. But anyway. Oh, I thought you meant the town near Bristol. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Southern bias. See, this is what I'm talking about. This right here. We were on stage and we were all doing solo work, and the exercise was just do a mime, just see what happens, and whatever that happens to be. Maybe you've got like a pair of binoculars. Yeah. play with that for a couple of seconds and then morph it into something else. Oh, those binoculars have become 2 glass marbles and now I'm rolling them on the floor. Oh, and now I'm a crab with pincers. And, you just let your body morph.
Yes.
And you just go with it. And we did that for quite a while. I mean, it was about, in my head, I think like 20 minutes, half an hour, It was a substantial amount of time. And I just found it so liberating because in that particular workshop, I was ready at that point in my improv journey to hear that message about just go with what you've come up with and be interested in it and let it morph and just have fun. You don't need anyone else.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I found in The Annoyance as well, which I was in The Annoyance in August, and they really hammer that message about like, Susan Messing's whole thing is, if you're not having fun, you're the asshole. Right?
Yes.
So like just having fun and not relying on other people.
Yes.
And that in and of itself was just a really important lesson to learn, not to rely on other people.
Yes.
Because especially when you start improv, it's all make your partner look good, listen, yes and, all of that, which implies a relationship and implies a dependence, I think.
Yes, and I think that's still a useful way to start.
It is, and it's a useful thing, but I think at that point, so by that, like this time last year, I'd been doing improv for, 4 years, I guess, and I think, like I say, at that point in my improv journey, my improv journey.
I like it every time you say it.
It's so nauseating. I don't know what else to call it.
You've come so far.
I know, I've reached so high. Yeah, I was ready to hear, okay, yes, other people are important. Of course they are. This is a collaborative art form.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have the power to do anything you want to do on stage, and you should follow your impulses. You should trust yourself, and you should entertain yourself.
Yeah. And implicit in that is that you're making strong decisions.
Yeah.
And what greater gift can you give your scene?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think those 2 particular workshop moments have really stood out for me. As kind of key lessons, but I think it's important that I experienced them when I did.
Yes.
If my first improv workshop had been, Victoria Bang or Heather and Joe's music, that particular one, I don't think I would have come away being like, oh, I'm keeping that in my heart forever. Because you have to get to a certain stage, I think, where you've kind of dabbled a bit before you can
I totally
make
agree.
really the most out of those workshops.
Just thought if Heather and Joe's one of Heather and Joe's workshops was the first one you did, you're thinking, I'm going to be crying a lot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know, I have this many tears in me.
Yes, it's true. I haven't cried that much in improv, but when I have, I think it has been with Heather and Joe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me...
In a good way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
When I was at the Maydays retreat this year, we did Songs That Matter. And Heather had a list of lists. And basically, we just sang. We gave her a number, and she would give us 3 options of lists that we could sing. And the one that I chose was Things That I Miss.
Oh.
And
yeah, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier before we started recording, weren't we? About musical improv and how delightful it is because it's a shortcut to those kind of really, really vulnerable emotions that people don't feel safe exposing without the kind of safety net of song, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And, I love musical improv. It's a real treat. But I just as much, I love scenes, in fact, I maybe love them even slightly more, where people show that emotional vulnerability without the excuse or the safety net of it's a tune, it's a song, it's going to have a big flashy chorus. But anything that gets people exposing themselves more is good, I think.
That low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I've done it again.
Oh, great. I'd only just stopped thinking about cake. Now I'm thinking about low-hanging... Never mind.
So with... So you are also, you mentioned you're in a 2-prong group.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So because Knee Jerks is an offshoot of Box of Frogs, and now to get even more niche, I have an offshoot of an offshoot called Squid Heart.
Squid Heart.
Squid Heart. And that is me and Susie Evans. And we are very good friends. We have known each other for years and years. And we just decided that we wanted to do multi-character work we both love Dummy. We're both
yes.
TJ and Dave fans,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and we just thought, you know, in the same way that Knee Jerks was born out of a hunger for more long form, this was just like, okay, we've got more long form, but now we want an even more niche form of it. And I think there's something really lovely about Improv.
Yeah.
Improv is relational, isn't it? And just when you find someone that you connect with really, really well, and someone that you could trust to do anything on stage with, that is such a rare and beautiful thing that, you know, you just don't ever want to let it go, and you just want to do as much of it as you possibly can.
Yeah, no, I very much feel the same way with Bryn in Dr. Tuporov. I know that whatever I do, however ridiculous it gets, and it gets quite ridiculous, I know he'll have my back.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we can, but also we can do the silly, the ridiculous, the comic, but also we can do the emotionally real and true, and that wherever we go, I'll follow him and he'll follow me.
Yeah.
And that's a lovely thing.
I mean, we're not mind readers. Like, last night we were doing a scene with Knee Jerks. It was me and Susie, and Susie had this premise in mind, and I was just not getting it at all. I was like, what? Huh? What do you mean a dog?
Oh, the dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
she was trying to get me to say that the dog was this is so uninteresting for your listeners, but it was,
it's fine. We're on episode 76.
Yeah, I guess by now it's the hardcore
hardcore
remaining, right?
Yes. So when you were hearing about people's achievements or no, what was it? Someone wanted to look after pups, grown-up pups.
Yeah. So we asked the audience what they were struggling with or what they were proud of, and out of that, someone in the audience said that they wanted to restore old pubs.
Yes.
I don't know whether that was struggling or achievement. I'm not sure which one that was. But yeah, someone in the audience said that that's what they want to do. They want to start restoring old pubs. And I misheard on stage, and I thought they said old pups.
Yes.
I was like, why would you restore old pups? Like, what? How does that even work?
Yeah, where's the dividing line between an old pup and a dog?
Yeah. This is my elderly puppy. He's 2 years old. So Susie was trying to bring that back in a scene, and she had this dog that was like suffering, you know, this young dog, and its joints are very weak, and I just wasn't getting it. I was like, what? Has it got sciatica? You know, I just wasn't getting it, and you know, but
if it's any consolation, I was in the audience, and they would say, "Oh, the audience is much wiser because they're watching everything." Yeah. I hadn't got that either.
No.
I think we got there in the end. I thought, "Oh yeah, that was really clever."
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to get there.
It took me just as long as it took the audience. But yeah, so we aren't like super psychic, but I think we don't need to be. Of course, no two pairs are, you know, no two people are, not even identical twins. But I think the important thing is that even when I'm not understanding what Susie was wanting me to do, and when she's not understanding what I want her to do, we'll still get through it because we've got this kind of complicity.
Yes.
But I don't know, it's hard to kind of quantify it, but it works. I think.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm sure it does. I'll take your word for it.
We've done one performance so far as Squid Heart.
Oh, right.
And that's at the experimental comedy night I was telling you about, called Freewheelers, which runs... It's like, you know those trains that do like request stops?
Yes.
Those weird little villages that, you know, they won't stop there unless you ask.
Yes.
Freewheelers is a bit like that now. It's like, it'll run if you ask it to, but otherwise it won't. So the next one is in December.
Right.
It's the first Monday of December, and we're going to hopefully do about half an hour there.
Cool.
And so,
it's lovely to have that half hour.
Yeah, we did half an hour in October. It went really well. But what we're going to do next time is try and bring in more narrative, more characters, and just building it up, because it is so hard. People like Heather and Jules, people like Dummy, TJ and Dave, they make it look so easy.
Yes.
And it is just bafflingly difficult.
They have all done it more than once, though.
Yes,
that is
true.
Isn't it?
Exactly, and it takes a lot of being crap on stage to get to that level.
I mean, they're all fantastically talented, but they've been doing it for a long time
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
That's one of the things I have to remember. It's like, I'm not as good as them. And one of the things, I'm not as talented. But also, I haven't put in the years of practice.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
you know.
sure, exactly. And it's just lovely that there are now in Birmingham places where we can go and fail.
Yes.
And we can say to our friends, come and watch us doing this thing that we're not good at yet, but it will be really good when we've mastered it. You know, and there are spaces like that coming up now. And that is new for Birmingham. You know, in the last since I've joined the improv scene within the last 5 years, those kind of things have sprouted up. Not because of anything to do with me, but just, that Birmingham is going in a good direction. Also, because we're getting so many people leaving London now, they're coming to us because we're cheaper. So, maybe there'll be a Birmingham Improv podcast one day. I'm just saying.
Maybe they will.
Yeah.
So what's the format of Heart Squid? Is it
Squid Heart.
Squid Heart, sorry.
Heart Squid. I like it. Why not? It's no less nonsensical that way round.
There's a mirror universe where we're in Bristol and you're in a group called Heart Squid. It's exactly the same apart from those two things on location and name of your improv group. Sorry.
What's the format? I don't think we've figured that out quite yet. I think it's basically we are bringing in more narrative. Right. We're bringing characters back. We are setting up worlds of characters inhabited by many characters, but just played by the two of us. So basically, we're just doing the same thing TJ and Dave and Heather and Jules and Dummy are doing, but just not as good. Basically, is what we're doing.
That's helpful from a copyright point of view.
No, it's evolving. It's growing. We don't know what it is yet. We just know that we're two people who like playing together. Brilliant. And we'll keep doing it till we don't.
Excellent. That seems like a very good rule. Which I wish The Simpsons, The Simpsons said that. We'll keep going till it's not fun anymore. It's not fun for me anymore. Are they still making The Simpsons?
I think so. I've stopped. I'm just covering my eyes and my ears because episode series 10 was where it should have all just died. But anyway, that's probably a different podcast.
Maybe if they're listening.
Matt Groening, if you're listening.
If you're listening,
just let it go. Everything passes.
3/4 of an hour in. Let it be.
Yeah.
I've entirely forgot what I was going to ask you now. We're talking about The Simpsons. You're too prov. That sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Well, also, I don't know. I haven't spoken much about being a woman. But
tell me about being a woman.
Well, it's great. Let me tell you. No, just me and Susie, both women, and that's that's nice.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to say. No, it's interesting that the scene is growing all the time, but sometimes what we find with Box of Frogs is that there aren't very many women.
Right, yes.
So sometimes it's a case that women aren't turning up.
Yeah. And
sometimes it's a case that they do, but then they don't come back.
Yeah.
And so that's caused quite a lot of soul searching in Box of Frogs and a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Because I am really passionate about getting more people into improv, full stop. But certainly I'm really interested in, female experiences of improv.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of, particularly improv, when it's with a lot of inexperienced people, can often bring out things that a lot of women don't like. There's a lot of, there can be a lot of stereotyping. Yes. There can be a lot of, dick jokes all the time, which, that's,
and women are getting...
Not every woman finds that hilarious, to be honest.
No.
And there can be a lot, there can be sometimes on occasion there can be issues with boundaries that affect women even more so than men. So there are quite a lot of issues potentially, and there's quite a lot. There can be quite a swaggery kind of very kind of combative atmosphere almost with some people who are new to improv, who think it's all about status and who think it's all about. Not in a John Stonian sense of high not
status.
No, exactly. So it's all about status. Low status playing high, and no. So I'm really fascinated as to why sometimes we have these problems with women come but they don't come back, or most of the people in the room on any given week are male, and just think. This shouldn't be the case. This isn't a male art form.
No.
Men aren't any better or worse at improv than women.
I mean, in some ways you'd think they'd be worse because they're less used to listening to other people. I said that. I went there.
Yeah, well, hashtag patriarchy. Yeah. So I did try and set up actually a Midlands women's network, which just ever so slightly just didn't quite work. It almost worked, but it fell on its arse because there were just enough women interested for it to be sort of viable, but then no one could agree on a date, so it all just kind of dissipated. But I am going to try again. I'm going to keep trying because it's really important to me that we do build up these kind of networks.
I mean, it's really interesting. How do we, get all these voices in? So it's not, I have to say, if I see a group and it's all men, and I'm like,
I just think why? I'm just like, why isn't there a woman here? Like they're not
more than one woman.
Yes,
We
exactly.
are a panel show,
not just a token,
not just a token woman. Let's have 2 token women.
Yeah, exactly. And let's have one of them with short hair. Woo.
Yeah, let's have all the types. One with long hair, one with short hair. So all women are now represented.
Oh yeah, but no, it does flag up something for me if I see all men on stage. Okay. Less so if I see all women. I still think like mix is probably the best, but if I see all women, I'm like, oh, fair enough. Okay, I get that. Yeah. But if I see all men, I'm like, seriously, what's wrong? But there you go. It is changing. Yes. It is, and I just think I don't know. I don't think there's one single cause of this, so I don't think there's one single answer. But I just have to trust that the more attention improv gets and the more widespread it gets and the more mainstream it gets, then hopefully the more diverse the people coming to it will be. Yes. And I don't know, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler. Yeah, it's not like there's a lack of role models out there. And actually its collaborative nature is quite, I don't know, I'm only speaking for myself, not womankind. But like its collaborative nature is, I think, quite sympathetic to the way a lot of women are socialised, to be collaborative. So, I don't know. Hopefully there's going to be a change. And, if Squid Heart do anything, I hope it's just repping the women. If nothing else. And us having a nice self-indulgent time. Lovely. It all sounds changing good. The world. Changing the world. One half hour improv. 1.5 hour experimental comedy night that only runs when you ask it to at a time. We're going to get there. It's going to take a while, but we are heading at least in the right direction. Cool. We're nearly out of time because you have duties to perform. I do. In about 4 minutes, I'm going out there into the big, brave world outside, and I'm stewarding people to come in for another night of amazing improv here on this stage at the Birmingham Improv Festival. I'm not leaving. I'm staying. Yeah, they'll just have to perform around us. We're going to totally be part of the show. So a couple of final questions that I normally ask. Yeah. So, what is your signature move? On stage? On stage. Or off stage. Wouldn't you like to know? I'm doing it now, can't you tell? Oh, yes. I thought that was rather distinctive. My signature move on stage. What is it you do that people go, classic night, save the day again with a killer move? So I am told by my fellow knee-jerks that I pull really crazy faces, which I think is a good thing. I don't know I'm doing it though, so I don't know if that counts as a move. I'm thinking about the landlady for a character from last night. There was definitely a face going on there. Yes, I played a strange landlady in a pub, one of the pubs that was one of those old pubs that needed to be redone. Yes, I do. I think for me, I guess physicality. Yeah. I would like to think of it as a strength, but also, more honestly, it's probably something I resort to also on stage. I think it's a strength. But yeah, you can resort to your strengths, right? That's not a contradiction. That seems sensible. If you're going to resort to anything, you might as well resort to your strengths. Resorting to my weakness. That's a sign of low self-esteem, won't it? But yes, I like physicality. I like pulling faces. I've one person when I was in Chicago, I met this really amazing improviser. Her name was Sally. She was so brilliant, and she said something to me. She gave me a compliment that I really treasure, and she said, "You're not afraid to be ugly on stage," and she did actually say, "Don't take that the wrong way," but I actually really value that compliment. Because I'm not afraid to be ugly on stage, as last night's landlady proved, I think. But again, it's tied in with vulnerability. I really push for, putting something of yourself out there.
Yeah.
And stupid faces can be a bit of a mask, but actually the bravery to be ugly on stage isn't just about a stupid face. It's about, exposing a whole kind of person and persona. I guess stupid faces as a symbol of bravery to expose. Yeah. That's what I'm going to say. Wise words.
I don't know if we can top that, but the very final question. If someone were to be performing with you, what could they do to delight you on stage?
What a brilliant question. What could they do to delight me? I love playing with clowns. And by clowns, I guess I mean people who just they can't help being honest, and they can't help just reacting without any guile at all. So to delight me, I just want pure, unadulterated, splurging, crazy honesty. And I want weird physical offers. I want bizarre, shapes. I want you to be up in the roof or lying, under the stage, or just doing something bold. Bold and honest and weird.
Brilliant.
Those are great things.
Bold, honest and weird.
Yes.
Right. That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What a delight to be on this podcast.
That's been amazing.
And thank you for coming up to Birmingham, to the provinces.
It's been an absolute joy, and I wish I was staying longer. I don't want to go back. Don't make me go back. Don't make me go back. Everyone's really unfriendly there. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I made this.
That's improv!